In his barbershop, Butch Hunt hears a lot of stories from eyewitnesses about strange alien encounters.
About 60% of the people around here, I think, have seen something. And some talk about it and some don't. They're just afraid to talk about it. Afraid of ridicule and intimidation. The one that we saw was over Red Mills Bridge, and there were 6 of us in the car, but it just so nice. It just glided right over the trees, and we just got out and stood there, just gawked at it, and nobody said a word. But the whole episode was probably 30 seconds. But it was huge. It was bigger than the bridge.
UFOs are cited by all kinds of people, including the most credible professionals that you can find. In addition, when we have multiple witnesses who all tell the same story, then we can say, well, that's probably a pretty good report. If we have enough detail in a given report that we can rule out all of the normal explanations, it's not the planet Venus, it's not the aurora borealis or a meteor, it's not an aircraft that we can name, then we are talking something fairly credible.
If these mysterious craft are being piloted by an alien civilization, what is their mission? Why Earth? And why now? There are growing numbers of people, now in the thousands, who believe that they've been abducted, manipulated, and then released by aliens. It sounds ridiculous until you hear their stories.
I looked up in my rearview mirror and lights were coming down out of the sky.
I walked out to the edge of the water and I noticed this huge, shining thing.
I was so terrified looking into these big black eyes and these little creatures. I was thinking I could just raise my fist and crush his head. And exactly at that moment, I became paralyzed.
The visions often come during sleep. Nightmares about being abducted, probed, and prodded by aliens who have sinister motives. Hundreds of people have come forward to talk about their disturbing experiences and admit that they think their nightmares are real. Experts believe that there are thousands, perhaps even millions more just like them, who are too afraid to talk.
We have hundreds and thousands of people who are coming forward and saying that the abduction phenomenon has happened to them, that they've experienced it, and basically they say the same thing as everybody else has said, and until recently, there was no possibility that they could have picked up these stories in the media.
Since she was a baby, commercial photographer Kim Carlsberg has been plagued by memories of abduction.
At 4:30 in the morning, I saw this image of these 4 beings just move through this wall. They just, like it wasn't there. And they came over to me, 2 at my feet, 2 at my head, and they started to lift me up to the ceiling.
Bud Hopkins has been researching alien abduction reports for 26 years and is a firm believer.
I'm the first to admit that all this sounds outrageous. It all sounds just crazy, and yet the evidence is there behind it.
These particular problems could adequately be explained by the condition narcolepsy. This is a disorder characterized by hypnagogic hallucinations, and hallucinations that occur at sleep onset, which can be very vivid and include the feeling of other people being present in the room, or a sensation of levitation. Patients will actually describe saying that they are looking down onto their body.
I have 2 people that I've never met describing this exact same examination of their head being opened up, something being done to their brain, and being put back together again.
They opened my back. I knew my back was open because I could feel. It was almost as though a slit had been drawn down my back and across to the side, and they had opened a flap of flesh and tissue.
Whether the reports come from adults or children, men or women, most of them follow similar patterns.
There's a bright light that shines in the room. The abductee sees it. They hear a noise outside.
They're not interested in your mate, they're interested in you. So what they do is they render the person that you're with unconscious.
She goes up a beam of light with the alien into a hovering craft. If anyone goes into the room at that point, there's no one in the room. She's not in bed, in other words. The person is literally missing.
You find yourself on a table and these creatures around you with instruments, and you have no idea what they're doing, and they don't tell you.
The focus of the entire enterprise seems to me to be unmistakably on reproductive issues.
90% of reported abductions involve descriptions of what experts call gray aliens, extraterrestrial creatures with oversized heads and dark almond-shaped protruding eyes. Less common are insect-like or reptilian creatures.
The reptilian type has bothered a lot of people. It seems to be quite hostile and intrusive, often has claw-like hands, and I know there's one case where claw marks were photographed on the back of a woman.
There's one being in particular that I always recognize, and he's not a gray. He's taller, he's thinner, he's got a bigger head, he's got bigger eyes. His limbs are very praying mantis-like. I remember being on the table with my head turned away, not wanting to look at this creature. And then when I looked at him, I just recognized him as the one that I hated.
In a few cases, subjects claim to see hybrids, creatures who are half human, half alien. Some abductees believe they are being crossbred with aliens to create these hybrids.
A very important part of the abduction phenomenon is that there are reproductive procedures carried out upon them.
I've been shown children, I've been shown babies. I've been asked to hold children and babies. I've been asked to give these children affection. And these children aren't alien children, and they're not human children. They're somewhere in between.
I had a woman who had been to the doctor, had an ultrasound done. Her husband was there. Everyone observed at 3 months a healthy fetus. The next day she wakes up screaming they took it. Is so upset her husband takes her back to the doctor. He does a pregnancy test, finds out she's no longer pregnant. They do a D&C, there's nothing there.
The most humiliating thing that happened to me is that